Coming up next on the Wet Fly Swing podcast.
Andy was a young man with a learning disability that had struggled through high school. He always said he was inspired by a phrase by Benjamin Franklin. It was, there is a better way, find it. He always said, that is, as a young man, that's really what stuck with me.
That was Lily Renzetti with a powerful story about perseverance. The Thompson A lefties influence and 50 years of fly tying excellence today on The Swing.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Hey, how you doing today? Thanks for stopping by the show. If you get a chance, please give us a follow on Instagram at Wet Fly Swing right now. That's a great way to support this podcast and go a little bit deeper and stay in touch with what we have going. Today's episode is sponsored by Eastern Idaho's Yellowstone Teton Territory, Idaho's most renowned zone for fly fishing, from the Henry's Fork to the South Fork of the Snake and all the high alpine lakes and streams in between. Yellowstone Teton Territory provides anglers and other outdoor enthusiasts with all the information they need to plan their next big trip. You can visit wetflyswing.com/Teton right now to get the full list of outfitters, lodges, fly shops, and all kinds of inspiration to get you started on your next trip to Eastern Idaho. That's Teton, Teton, wetflyswing.com/Teton. Togens Fly Shop, who provides superior quality products at an affordable price, an amazing resource for fly tying materials, tools, and fishing accessories. Since 2005, Togens has been over-delivering on price, service, and passion, and now you can check out that Togens buzz for yourself. Right now, you can head over to wetflyswing.com/Togens to get started. That's Togens. You support this podcast by clicking through that link to Togens online. Lily Renzetti is here to share the full Renzetti fly tying vise story and how they've been leading the way over the last 50 years. We discover how it all started with an idea to make fly tying easier. And we also dig into some of their current ambassadors and some of the big people that are using Renzettis around the country. And we find out why the Traveler has been such a game changer over the years and is still a go-to vise. Plus, we find out what's next on tap for Renzetti. Here we go. Lily Renzetti from Renzetti.com.
So I want to thank you, first of all, for asking me to tell the story about Renzetti and talk about the different products that we make. Renzetti started out of a hobby. It was something that Andy, who is my husband, and his younger brother used to do back in the late 60s. And Andy's background is a machinist. And they used to, at that time, we were living in Pennsylvania, and they used to fish a lot in the little pine or big pine in the northeast. And they were, back then, the product that was available was great. It was the only thing in the market, but they wanted something more to allow them to be more productive in their time. And that's where the presentation 3000, that was the very first vise introduced by Renzetti, came about. It was completely different in design than anything available. So it was a change. And honestly, it was something that he was making for friends. And then one of his friends was a shop owner, a fly fishing. He had a fly fishing shop. And that's where they used to gather the fly tires. Keep in mind, back in the late 60s, early 70s, we didn't have internet, social media. So it was a different way the industry was different. And little by little, he contacted Orvis. And Orvis was our very first big retailer that introduced the Presentation 3000. And Andy actually used to drive to Vermont, sleep on the sofa of John Hatter, who happens to be the fly fishing buyer for Renzetti, deliver devices and come back the next day. So this is just how everything started. He was working full-time as a machinist for a local shop in Romansville, Pennsylvania. And he was renting time from his boss to make devices. And then I think it was in the late 70s, he decided to build a 3-car garage at home. And that's where he started full-time operation. He introduced the device in 1972, but it wasn't until 77, 78 that he decided, I'm going to give it a try and, take it to the next level. So that's where the story began, on the 3-car garage, honestly. And then about 6 years later, he bought another piece of property close to the house and built a shop that was our home for the next 10 years. And then in 96, we moved to Florida. But in that journey, from the presentation 3000 in the 70s, it wasn't until 1988 that he introduced the Traveler series, the Traveler and the presentation. The presentation 3000, the design is unique. The jaw design, the section that holds the hook, is very tapered. So it was ideal for small flies. So salt water started happening, and so the need for something bigger to hold bigger hooks in our product line was there. And that's where the Traveler came about, and the presentation 4000 came about, because he gave the angler a bigger hook range. He went from a number 28 to a 4-aught. So keep in
Oh,
mind
wow.
that when we give the hook range for a particular series, is based on the true rotary feature. So the Traveler and the presentation 4000 was in 1988. And then in 1993, 1994, that's where the Master was introduced. That vise goes from one extreme to the other. It goes from a number 28 to a 10-aught. And Bobby Popovics, who is I don't know if you recognize the name, but he's a tremendous,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it was a push from Bobby to introduce something that will accommodate bigger hooks. So he was instrumental, along with Lefty, because everything that Andy designed after the presentation 3000, he developed this relationship with Lefty that Lefty pretty much gave the approval before he went to the market, honestly. So it was a beautiful relationship. So Bob Popovics, he was really the inspiring reason for the Master. And the way Andy designed product is he sees how the tire, how does that person tie, what are his needs, and based on that, that's how he come up with new product. So you have the Traveler that had a different jaw housing at that time, and then based on feedback from consumers, we redesigned the jaws of the device in, I think it was 96, 97, where it has a lever instead of a screw to tighten the hook. So it was a lot user friendly. And that's what we make today. All of our vices has that lever mechanism. When we introduce them, of course, we have a patent for those design, but those patents have expired for the jaws. What we were able to do is, because when devices were introduced, the design was is still very unique. So we were able to apply in the late 90s, mid 90s, I think, for what is called a tray dress, which is the design that clean, smooth, bent. That's the design of Renzetti, and that's still a current trademark that Renzetti has. So, but when you look at the journey of Renzetti, I think a lot about it lately, because it has been 50 plus years. 50 years is what we
Wow.
celebrate, because that's the very first time that he introduced the presentation 3000. But a lot of the industry overall is something that, because you're in the industry, it changes you. It's
Yeah.
really a relationship industry. And as you go in this journey, the people that you met, they are customers of ours that have been with Andy, very few since the early days, but it's a beautiful relationship. It's more than a business relationship, let me put it that way. It turned into friendship. And I don't know if any other industry give you that. I think back, I have friends from other industry, and they look at me like, really? You're friends with your customers? I say, my gosh, yeah, they're a huge part of our life. And I think that is unique. These industries, you really fall in love with it. Coming from the outside, just it changes you, honestly. So it's a great journey, let me put it that way.
Yeah, I love it. No, I think that's a great summary of, just that history of Renzetti. And I agree with you. I think that like that's why everybody loves it who is doing this fly fishing, not only if you're just, a fly angler, but like me, and you and folks that are in the industry. It's part of the thing we all love about, fly tying and fly fishing. It's, the people, everybody involved, and we do the same thing. People listening here are, friends of mine as well, and it's a good industry to be in. So, and you mentioned a couple things. So, the design I think is unique, right? With Renzetti, you've been out there a long time. Did you say it was the 50th anniversary this year?
Last year was the 50. He introduced the vice September of 72. And let me tell you how we come up with that. Well, he introduced the vice in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, I think it was a Federation of Fly Fishing Conclave. That was the very first time that he introduced the vice. And so we always go by that day. When he started his business, Renzetti was called, because he was a machinist and because he did costume machining for other industry, the business used to be called Renzetti Costume Machining. When he changed job, let me put it that way, resigned from his current job into the other one. So it wasn't until 86 when he built the facility close to the house that he changed his name. So we always go by the day that he introduced that vice in the public eye. So it was the 50-year anniversary. So yes, we are celebrating the 50 year now. We started last year. We made the introduction of the 50-year anniversary vice in April because that's when the project was completed. We did have quite a bit of delays on that project, but I just felt that there's something to celebrate about that. And the product that we introduced in April is a true representation of what Renzetti have given the industry, have given the angler is pretty much summarize our journey when it comes to product line. So it's very unique and beautiful presentation that, but we did have a lot of delay because of COVID and, changes in how our life got disrupted. So.
Right, that's right. Yeah, no, it's awesome. So you have, this vice, and just going back to that, so you have 50 years. I mean, and remind me again, when did you get involved in Renzetti in that journey? When did you meet Andy?
I got involved in 87.
So right after he built the machine shop at the home.
That's correct. I think, yeah, that was in a year later. Yeah. And believe me, I didn't know what fly fishing was. I didn't know what fish. I mean, I never fish. I completely different background.
Right. So you were there like basically 15 years after
the introduction of the vice.
Yeah, introduction. And what was he fishing for? Was he a big fly fisherman before then?
He was, and it was mostly trout because he was, in Pennsylvania. That's where he started. And then I think it was late 80s when he started experimenting with saltwater fly fishing.
Okay. And when you started in the 72, and I remember that because, well, I don't remember it, but my dad started his fly shop back at about that time out of our home, before I was born, but back in that time. So yeah, I kind of remember that as I was a little kid thinking about that, but things have changed a lot, right? Does Andy, I wonder, when you look back then, what vices were there then versus now? Because it seems like obviously there's more vices out there.
He was using the Thompson A at that time. That's what he was using. And, that was the most popular vice back then that was available.
Wow. So that's it. So Thompson A was the vice. There wasn't a, like Regal. Was Regal around back then?
I am not sure about the beginning of another manufacturer.
That's right. We can check on that. We'll put that in the show notes. I'm just curious because it feels like you've created this vise, or Andy, you all created this vise, which was so unique back, in the 70s. I mean, it's still unique now. I think probably my guess is people have copied the design or tried to over time because it's such unique, right? It's true rotary. Is that what separates the vise? Like if you go back to the first vise or the vise today, what is the unique kind of thing that Renzetti has?
The true rotary concept was introduced by Renzetti. The Thompson A was a rotary vise, but it wasn't true rotary, which is where the shank of the hook is even with the shaft of the vise and rotating its own axis. That's what the true rotary concept is, honestly. But I am not sure. Let me ask Andy. Andy, what other vices were available back in the when you were tying? Thompson A, HMH was in the market.
That's it.
Yeah, I think that the HMH might have come up a little bit, but later it wasn't. Yeah, but at that time there wasn't too many out there. And also remember, if they were not known as the Thompson A was. And I think I know that that's where he started. Through the years, I have heard him saying that was he was using at the time.
That's right. Okay, yeah, and that's it. Yeah, the Thompson A was the vise that was pretty much everywhere. It seems like it was maybe, yeah, but it wasn't a true rotary. So the Renzetti have all your products, has that always been the thing that it is a true rotary vise?
Always, since the very beginning. Now, where did your father have this shop?
It was out in Oregon. It was a small shop out in Oregon, and yeah, and I remember, as a little kid growing up around the shop, and I remember the Thompson, and I just can't remember the other vices as you got into the 80s, but there were probably some others, I'm sure, Regal, or maybe there's a couple of the other bigger ones that came in. But the point is that, yeah, you were there at the beginning, created this product, and you said you have a patent on, I think it was in the 2000s, another patent, and that was on the actual shape of or can you describe the current patent you have?
There was a patent for the jaw, for the cam jaw. And the trade dress is for the design. And that's something that, it's like the Coca-Cola bottle. You recognize it everywhere. It's just the design. That's a trade dress, and that does not have you have to renew that every so many years. The patent that we had was the cam, and then there was another product line that we make besides devices that is rope building. And so in the raw building, there is a couple of patents that we also had, but they have expired since then. But we manufacture fly fishing, the fly tying vices, the hand tools, and the accessory, but we also design and manufacture raw building equipment. And he had been doing that since I'm gonna say the 80s, early 80s. So, I mean, that product line have changed through the years as well, based on technology and also demand, requests. But that's how our product line have grown. Fly fishing or raw building is based on customer feedback, also based on technology, the way that keep in mind back then, he used to make everything manually. I mean, everything was manual. um, with technology, and equipment, things are a little bit more automatic, but it's still depending of the series of vices. Some of them are still up to today with technology very labor intense. The master, for example, or the presentation 4000 or the 3000, after they are machined, they require a lot of they are touch. Each part is touch in many different stages, and to create the finish, to create the looks, and just the quality of it. A machine is not gonna do it. So some of our vices are the higher end. They're very labor intense still, and some of our accessories. I mean, it's funny when you look at the equipment that Andy used to use back then, that we still have it today. Every fixture needed to do a process on that vise was designed by Andy. And we are updating them because, there are newer processes and newer technique. But it's amazing how the necessity, he couldn't afford it, so he have to do it. And
Right.
it's beautiful, honestly. And when you look at the fixtures back then, it's like, oh my gosh, how did you come up with that? It's truly awesome.
You're right. That is. Yeah, it's the I can't remember the saying, but that's sometimes the best products come out of that when you're forced. Not only he kind of had the love and the passion for it, but you're forced to be creative when you don't have the resources. Maybe right.
Yes, and that's honestly, that's what it was. I mean, fly fishing is a bigger industry today, but when you look at that time, it was not by any means. So there's a lot of sacrifice. You were in the fly fishing industry, so I mean, your parents had a fly shop, so a lot what I'm
Yeah.
referring to is it was a whole different environment, and the love and passion for it is just what is admirable, I think.
Do you see when you look back to say when Andy started or the 80s when you kind of came into it and now versus today, what are the biggest differences you see in the fly tying kind of vice market? Does it feel a lot different now than it used to?
Well, from a business perspective, with the relationship with our retailers, I don't think it have changed. I think that we still have that passionate angler that is obsessed. There are different breeds, let me put it that way. So I don't think that have changed. And I think that that's the part that I love the most because I deal with our retailers on a regular daily basis. I think that the industry from the consumer part of it have changed, and changes are good because allows you to be more creative and come up with different. But part of us that have been in it for a long time reminisce it about, wow, this was so different, and there is a beauty in every part of the journey, honestly. But they are part of the current fly fishing environment that I wish that wouldn't change. And that is and I'm sure I'm gonna get hell for this, but
Yeah.
but that is the immediate gratification or notoriety of people that have not been in the industry long enough to know the true meaning or the true value of fly fishing, that are expecting so much when they haven't even put the effort into.
Right. And do you mean more from the angler customer perspective or more from the company who's producing the products?
Oh no, I think that more of from a consumer perspective.
Yeah, like people don't quite understand. They might see all the products out there and not have enough experience to understand like the effort that went into what they're using. Is that what you kind of mean?
No, I mean from the consumer that is providing information to others that are not necessarily original or don't know where that fly came from or having done the research to where that fly came from and put their name associated with it when there was somebody 100 years ago or 30, 40, 50 years ago that developed that fly. And that to me is that's where that instant gratification come from. And I wish that you know we are old fashioned in a way. We are old fashioned, and there is no way to put it about change that. But I think that a fly, regardless of where we are today, was designed by somebody else a long time. And because of the changes in the industry material, the restriction on natural fibers and all of that have forced us to change it because of the limitations and also because of the species that we're fishing for today that perhaps years ago I'm talking about 50, 60 years ago, nobody ventured into. But it's still, that fly was originated by someone before us.
Yeah.
So, to change the color and color the lily Renzetti fly will be pretty,
Yeah, that's right.
and I know I'm gonna get hell for this.
No, I think you're right. I think part of it is that like you say, some people might be new and they don't even know. They create something and they're like, oh wow, this is the unique first time ever. But I mean, everybody, and I've had lots of guests that say the same thing on the show, where they say, hey, nothing's new, really. It's all been done, right? But the vices is interesting, because with the fly tying vices, you do have this vice that back in the 70s was pretty unique, or was very unique. You know what I mean? I feel like now, if you go look at the top 10 vices or go Google it online, you'll see a lot of vices by different companies that look very similar to Renzetti, that design, how it's bent, right? And it's rotary and it's bent. So that's what I think or part of that, right, is like some of these companies, the patent's gone, so they can basically have a vice that looks like yours. Talk about that a little bit. Do you look at these other vices out there and think, wow, looks a lot like ours, or what's your take there?
As I mentioned, the Renzetti trade dress is the design. And if you look at a lot of companies out there, today's world, the only ones that you see out there that are trying to penetrate the market, they are made overseas. And it is because the major fly tires manufacturers in the United States, I think that they pretty much respect each other. Yeah, they want to be competitive. Yet they have some similarities. Yes, they have changed their jaw design to be more like the design that we introduced. There is not a patent there anymore. So yes, they can do it. But when it comes to the design, the few of them that are similar, um, is because Renzetti have always enforced we protect our trademark. So the only two or three that you see in Amazon today, perhaps, those are from overseas and they're difficult to track. But it's a constant battle. And the beauty of it is that when an overseas customer has a design similar to ours and they contact a distributor or a retailer in the United States, I can assure you that retailer or that distributor is going to send me an email and say, hey, is this infringing? So there is a lot of respect for each other, protecting each other's right. So I believe that that's a Renzetti design. We invested a lot of time and creativity in our product line, and yes, we will, like anybody else, you're going to protect your right. If you have, for a patent, they're expired, I cannot do anything about it. But for a trade dress, yes, we do protect our trade dress.
Quick break for a word from our sponsor. With more than 40 years of experience in coffee, the Anglers Coffee Team roasts a full range of coffee with one goal in mind, delivering excellent coffee to every single angler. Responsibly sourced from farms using sustainable growing practices, you can rest easy knowing you are doing your part. Roasted and shipped within 48 hours to assure freshness. For me, it's all about that freshness and taste. When I crack open a bag of Anglers in the morning, I feel good because I know not only does it taste great, but I am supporting great movements along the way. With a blend for every taste, a dry dropper on the go tea bag option, and a roast sampler, Joe at Anglers is serving your needs. It's time to step up to better coffee and more impact for the fish species and causes we love. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/anglers right now to grab a bag of greatness today. That's Anglers, ANGLERS, to make a change today. Do you also have, you hear a lot about ambassadors, right? I know lots of people using your vices. Do you have ambassador type people out there, kind of big names in the fly tying space, or that are using your vices? Or how do you get, from a perspective of finding new customers, how do you look at that? Or is it just through all the fly shops? You've been around 50 years, so you don't have to do a lot of the effort on the marketing stuff?
I wouldn't say that. I think we are grateful for our retailers. Without them, honestly, we wouldn't be here. That's the truth. And that's what I value and protect them so much. But we have grown Renzetti organically through the years. We don't advertise. We, since day one, and he didn't have the means before. And today, I just think that we concentrate on providing a good quality vise. And I use ambassadors. Our group is very small, for a reason. the way that we look at it is we want to have people that have something truly to offer to the angler. We want people that are truly invested in the industry. So we have maybe 20 ambassadors, maybe 25, and they are a great group of anglers that are, I call them, you guys are obsessed. They are honestly, it's beautiful to see that passion, that intensity on them because they are truly invested in the fly tying industry. Bob Popovics, of course, Bob Clouser is another ambassador, Nick Gurzion, some legendary, iconic members, but there is also a lot of new ones that are creating a name for themselves, not just for being a phenomenal fly tires, but also a great ambassador of the sport. So those, we look at those qualities. We look at what do you have to offer to the fly tying industry, as a creative fly tire, but also who are you as an individual? What do you? We look at the character as well as how good you
Yeah.
are. And so we do get a lot of requests to be ambassador. And it's a long process because I let other ambassadors make that decision. I try not to make that decision internally. I pretty much run it by some of the ambassadors, and there is a group that I between the ambassadors that I request information from. So it's a small group. It's a great group. They are come from all different backgrounds, but they are passionate about flight time. They're very creative, and so our group is small, but I think that they are very powerful as well. And I also think that they are here for the long run. They're no, it's not a trend for them. So to me, that has a lot of value to it.
Yeah, love that. Love that. And I see on your website, I think people can take a look. You have your ambassadors, they're legacy ambassadors, and people, some we've had on the podcast, like Kelly Galloup, and then you've got other ambassadors. Some people that I know of as well, Justin Probanik, who we fished with Justin last year up in Ohio, and Dan Probanik, his
Yes.
uncle, we just had on the podcast. So yeah, I think you have a good mix. And then I guess one question would be there. I am always interested in this mainly from my own perspective, and you hear about the 50-50 movement and stuff. Like I'm always thinking like, hey, how do we, get more women on the podcast, right? Because I feel like we are more male dominated. Do you look at that at your ambassadors when you're choosing? Is that a hard thing to find more diversity with women ambassadors and people you're connected with? Or is it just that there's just more men in fly tying and that's kind of how it is?
I always call myself feminist in a different way, and I will hate to target a female just because she's a female angler, just because she's a female.
Right.
So there are few. I do have Kate Waxon from BC that is
Oh,
phenomenal,
yeah.
and there are two other anglers, female anglers that I'm contemplated, but I want to see their journey. I'm just waiting a little bit because I hate to use a woman or a man just because this is what I need right now for my business. No, I am not gonna go that route.
Right.
No, I wouldn't like him. As a woman, I will find it extremely offensive. So I don't go there.
Yeah, I like that. I think, and what you're saying, I agree. I mean, I kind of, I think about it. I have two young, kids. I've talked a lot about my girls and their, I think about them a lot when I do this. That's part of my journey. But also, I agree. You want to find the best people. It doesn't matter if they're women, or males or white or black or whatever, right? It's just like you want to find the best people.
Absolutely correct. I don't care what color you are, what sex you are. To me, that's immaterial. I believe me. I'm a foreigner. I was born and raised in Venezuela. I came to college to the United States, and I will never let anybody undermine me, or I will never put. I just disagree with that 100%.
Yeah, that's great. No, I love that. I can hear, it's good that you have, right, you have this pattern. It's amazing because, we could obviously hear your accent, and from Venezuela. That's really interesting for me. Maybe we could take it back there just a little bit on your journey. So you came to the U.S. through college. How did that work?
I finished high school in Venezuela, and then I wanted to go overseas to go to school, to college, to get my secondary education someplace else. So it was either US, UK, or Poland, believe it or not. At that time, those were the three countries I wanted to go to. My dad wouldn't let me go to UK or Poland because it was too far and I didn't know anybody there. We didn't have any family, nobody in those countries. So my mother had a relative in Delaware. So when I was looking for colleges, I needed to be close to Delaware. That was my only choice.
Right. Delaware. And what was the college? What college did you go to?
I went to St. Joseph University in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Philadelphia. I'm off. I've been on a documentary binge, and I've just finished watching the Ben Franklin documentary. You know what I mean? And it was Ken Burns.
Yes.
It's really good. And I mean, I didn't know the history. Obviously, Ben Franklin was a founding father, but Philadelphia in Pennsylvania was a huge, huge part. You know, that's where he was from. That's where the Constitution was, you know, ratified. And you know, I always think about that because I had this history of, you know, you think about now the times of the U.S., right? There's struggles. We always have struggles. But I go back to that. I mean, you live, you know, you've lived around a place that was a very influential part of the U.S. Do you feel that from you coming out from the Venezuela? I mean, I'm sure you're obviously a U.S. citizen and all of that stuff.
Yes.
But do you look back at that ever and think like, wow, how do you feel about living in the U.S. versus I'm not even sure what's going on in Venezuela?
Oh my gosh, it's truly a privilege. I mean, it makes you appreciate, even with all the issues that we're having as a country, it still makes you appreciate this country more coming from the background. And keep in mind, when I came to college, when I left Venezuela, I was 19, and Venezuela was still a very vibrant, rich, democratic country
Oh,
back
wow.
then. So I didn't personally, I have seen the changes and the struggle because half of my family is still there.
Oh, right.
But when you look at how Venezuela have changed so tragically to where it is today, almost a communist country, to where we are as a country in the United States, you know, it just made you people don't realize how good we have it. You know, they really don't. And regardless of their political views or ideas, if we don't make changes, we're gonna end up in Venezuela. I don't
Right.
think that drastically, but
No,
I mean,
I hear you.
you see the similarity. I don't want to be this political, but
Yeah.
I don't. So, but you know, when I came here I learn English. I still learning every day. And then I studied English for like maybe 6 months. It was just a school just for English for foreigners, also in Philadelphia, outside Philadelphia. And then I went to St. Joseph University, you know, and graduated in 85. Like, I'm sorry, in 85.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I wanted to go back. At the beginning, I wanted to go back because my dad was had a business in the oil industry and I wanted to work with him. But as I went through my college career and Venezuela started deteriorating, I just felt that, you know, let me see if I can work for a few years, get more experience, and maybe things will change. But it didn't. And then I met Andy and we fell in love, and the rest is history.
Amazing. That's amazing. I love. And what was your in college? What was your major?
I took a major in business and a minor in industrial relation. Honestly, I wanted to be an attorney. That's what I
Oh
wanted to
yeah.
be in law, a labor attorney. That's what I wanted to do. So I took some industrial. I did a minor in industrial relation. My goal was to go back and continue and work on the labor aspect of it because there was a lot of injustices, let me put it that way, and in Venezuela. So that's one area that I wanted to go into. But I um I work in purchasing for until I start working with Andy in 90, officially working with Andy in 94 after we had our son. But I got involved with the business. I will do the shows with him and work in the sales aspect. At that time, he didn't have anybody in sales. In 87, he didn't have anybody doing marketing or anything like that. So I did a lot of that, behind, after hour behind it, we will do the shows together and stuff like that. And then when we had Andrew, I resigned from my job and then I started working with him. It changed my life.
And do you still do some of the shows out there?
I do. I do the shows. I run the company. So
Oh wow! So you still doing the shows? You must really love the shows out there then.
I absolutely love what we do.
Yeah.
From being in with the consumer, with our retailers, from the daily operation, I absolutely. We have a great team here, so they make it happen. Honestly, I don't know how, but we have been able to instill quality on our staff, and everything they do is like it was when Andy was doing it, in the sense that they are so particular that the quality is everything in this place. And sometimes I wonder have we been able to instill that on our staff where they are now, because they're the ones that are making it happen every single
Yeah.
day. But it's when I see the finished product, when we're coming up with an idea that they bring it over for the aesthetic aspect of it. Hey, what do you think about this? Or do you like, it blows my mind that we have been able to instill that. It has to be beautiful, it has to be quality, it has to be function. The three of them have to be combined. And whenever we just came up with a new accessories, and it was a challenge for them because in a way it was one of the first projects that they do on their own, with Andy's guidance behind the scene, but we pretty much let them run with it. And it was amazing because it turned out perfect. By the time they brought it over to me to see it, it was already done. No changes. I was like, man, they're getting great at it.
Right. Right. That's it. So you have accessories for, and I'm looking at some of these on your website, like Pat Eller's bullet head tools.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's a team effort. We just introduced a couple of things that we introduced this year. We came up last year in the fall with a toolbar that you put on your vise. And now, personally, Andy and I don't like anything on our vise besides the vise itself. We don't like lights. We don't like any tool holder, simplicity.
Yeah.
So, but people have been asking, you should have this, you should have, okay, let's come up with something a little bit different. So we did. And then one of our staff members said, since you don't like this, what about doing a station for the tool, but kind of a tool caddy, but for toolbars? So they came up with what is called a tool bar station, which is a little stand that holds different toolbars. That way you can put your tools on those bars, but it also allows you to use the enhancement plate that we offer, or any enhancement plate. That way you can put that behind the vise, behind the jaw. So it helps you focus on the hook while you're tying. It just removes the clutter. So that was, I think that we introduced that in April this year. And then just recently, we attended the ICAST
Oh
show
yeah.
in Orlando. Was very well attended by fly fishermen too. So what we introduced there were a couple of things. Is the new Color Master, which is in a green. I don't think it's on the website. It's on our e-commerce site, but not on the Renzetti site. I think they're putting that today. So it's the Green Master. We also, the product that they design is what we refer to as a hinge stem. So what that is if you look at the master of the presentation, the connection between the vise itself and the stem is rigid. So what they designed was a hinge, a beautiful hinge that allows you to hinge the head of the vise. You can angle it a little bit more, similar to the presentation 2000, but it's designed for a master or a presentation 4000 or 3000. So that is new. And then the Green Master with the hinge stem also comes with the extended crank arm that allows you to rotate the vise like a crank. It has a handle that is more convenient. So
Yeah.
that won a prize at the ICAST as one of the best on the category. So that we were very excited about that.
Oh, wow.
And then every so often we come up with a new color for the Traveler series. People love it. So there is few other things that are on the works that the guys are,
Yeah,
most probably in the fall or in April,
that's great.
that will be introduced. But we're just trying to come up with new product that will make the whole experience more enjoyable.
Right. It seems like that might be a challenge, the fact that you created this thing back in the day, 50 years ago, which seems like it was almost the perfect product, right? You probably don't have to tweak it that much because it was such a good product right from the beginning.
From the beginning. And Andy always said, because he said, I just wish that I had figured out to make it that it wouldn't last that long. It's a joke,
Right,
but
right,
it's
right.
true, because we get vices from the 70s and 80s that they might need a little bit of cleanup, or
Yeah.
they might be, and we're still able to upgrade them pretty much. So even when we design a new product, we keep in mind those people that is spending money back in the days, so you don't need to purchase a new vise if you're old ring, or if you lost a screw or whatever. When we design something, we try to make it versatile with those previous series. So I think that's a uniqueness of a manufacturer, instead of making somebody purchase a new product. So
Yeah, it's interesting. And just looking at the vise, I mean, this is something that, I think a lot of vices that look like yours have kind of used something similar, but you've got the vise itself, but then you have the bar that kind of goes out, for your thread, right? That goes out, and then
the bobbing cradle.
yeah, the bobbin, and that's mainly for, what are the main features on that? Is that just for the rotary piece?
No, actually, the bobbing cradle has a unique purpose, and that is when you are wrapping the thread around the hook, you position that bent arm of the bobbing cradle, where the black piece is right by the hook, at the same level as the hook. So when you are wrapping the thread, you want to create some tension. That way you don't lose that wrap. So that's where you position your bobbin to create that tensions. A lot of people say, oh, I don't use it. And that's fine. But the
Yeah.
purpose why we include it with device is because it does have a purpose, and you can create that tension. Instead, you can leave it hanging, there is no doubt about it, but you create that tension at the same level as your hook to hold that bobbing. That way your thread is secure. So we offer that. I think that with every vise, with the exception of the apprentice and the two fly vise, because the two fly vise is a whole different concept, of time, but it comes with every single vice. It's part of the vice.
Part of the vise. Yeah, yeah, that's great. And that's the reason also that fits perfectly with the angle of the vise, which you can change the angle, but for the most part, it's at like a 45 versus, why not just have the straight, the jaws pointing straight out, right? But that's the idea, is that it fits perfectly with that, so you can rotate it.
You can rotate it, and we do offer a straight shaft vise, but that's after Bob Clouser, the ideal for longer streamer, because it's a straight shaft. If you look at the Clouser series, that is
Oh, okay. So yeah, I see it. So you can do it with the straight.
yes, you can. It's just that vise is amazing to tie longer streamers, because it's a straight. The fly itself, the body of the fly sits straight on the top of the vise. You don't have that V angle like you do on the other vices. You can accomplish the same. You can tie longer streamers on the traditional bent shaft design, but we think that the Clouser is more conducive to that. So, there are flights. I was talking to a customer at the ICAST. He said, my flies are longer than your vise. And so what he uses is he uses a spring at the very end of the vise to hold the material, because he said the body is like there are two hooks and they're really long. Like, my gosh, they're monster.
Yeah. Right.
But that's the type of fishing that they are doing today. That, back in the days, you'd never experimented with that. Nowadays they do. It's part of the growth of the fly tying. I mean, when I look at the fly fishing industry, I think fly tying is the one that have developed the most, in the sense materials. I mean, there is so many different. I'm sure that people can say the same about rods,
Yeah.
but I don't have that expertise, so I can only talk to you about fly tying.
No, but I hear you. I know what you're saying with the materials. I think you're right, because, materials used to be kind of all natural, and now you hear about there's so many synthetics coming in, and even more new ones. People say they don't even actually stock up on materials anymore because there's so many new materials coming in all the time to fly tying, right?
Well, I have to tell you, we got the distributorship for the product line called Just Add H2O, which is a fantastic synthetic product line made in South Africa. And like it has been around for many, many years. We just happened to secure that distributorship in the USA. And they made the Stifferer blend. They manufacture the brushes that Blaine Chocolate uses. But that product line, talking about diversity, there is like 40 categories, and each category have like 80 colors.
Oh, wow.
So that's an inventory nightmare.
Yeah, that is.
Trying to but I mean, the colors are beautiful. How they develop a product line that can move so naturally but doesn't retain the water, so it moves more freely once it's in the water. I mean, it's just remarkable. That's a whole different technology and level of I don't know. It's just,
it is.
it blows whenever we have to do a purchase order. It's like, how many shades of white do we have to have?
Right.
But you have to have the product, because every fly tire is unique in a way. They want, certain. So, but that's an industry that is growing tremendously, huge.
A quick break for a word from our sponsor, Smitty's Fly Box, delivering monthly flies, fly materials, and accessories each month with their Smitty's subscription fly box. If you need a unique fly selection for a new water you're fishing, or if you want to get started fly tying the easy way, Smitty's has you covered. They will find out where you're fishing and supply you with a custom fly assortment. And Smitty's has been producing high-quality flies and materials for over 30 years, and you may not realize it, but Smitty's is connected to Round Rocks, who is the sole supporter to Sportsman's Warehouse and has tied and supplied millions of flies over the years. I was at Sportsman's this week and picked up a couple of dozen flies, some chubby, small, and large dry flies, some terrestrial patterns. The quality was exceptional. That's one of my struggles, is the dry flies. So I love looking at these little guys, from small little tiny flies that I can barely see with my eyesight to the big ones. And these are the same people who are delivering and tying these flies to your door with Smitty's Fly Box. It's a great time right now to get stocked up for the season. You can head over to smittysflybox.com right now to take a look at their selection of flies and monthly boxes right now. Let Smitty's take the guesswork out of choosing fly materials and patterns right now. This is also an easy way to support this podcast and a small business who has been producing high-quality flies for many years. Check them out right now. That's Smitty's, SMITTYS, smittysflybox.com. Okay, back to the show. When somebody comes in and they're, let's just say, I'm not sure how many of your new customers are, brand new to fly tying or maybe experienced, but when somebody asks the question, like, how do they choose a vise? If they're looking at all your series, the Masters presentation, you've talked about them today. Is there one? I mean, the Traveler, I think, has come up a lot because a lot of people love that vise, but is there a first vise, or how does somebody choose a vise if they don't know Renzetti very well?
I always ask, and we get those questions a lot. I'm trying to decide. So I always ask, what do you do the most fishing for? What will you be tying for?
Right. And let's just say, for this example, let's just say steelhead.
Okay. So I always ask, where are you, what are you going to be your hook range, or what type of fishing you will do? And then the other one will be the budget. And I always say, start with the traveler, especially if you're new, because you don't know, number one, how, if you're really going to enjoy this or like this sport. And then after you use it for a while, if you feel like you need something more substantial or something, I wouldn't say better, because the traveler, when you're looking, if the vise cannot hold a hook, if the jaws cannot hold a hook, I don't care what vise you buy,
Yeah.
is worthless. So when you're looking at the whole product line, the hook range is wide open. Is a so when you're looking at the traveler, it goes from a number 28 to a 4 That's a huge
Yeah, it
hook
is.
range. So it does the same as the presentation. It holds the hook as good as the master, the presentations, or the saltwater traveler. But the other series offer you little features that the traveler does not.
Right.
But if you're looking at the basic true rotary vise that will hold a hook from 28 to 4 the traveler by far will be my only recommendation. Now, you want brass, you want the looks, you want the ball bearings, you want the crank feature, you want the speed crank, you want these other bells and whistles than the other vices offer, then go with that. But if you're starting, start with the traveler, get to know the sport, get to know how the vice is used, because for somebody new, take a class and use that true rotary feature, because it's going to change your whole experience. Where it becomes a little bit more difficult is when somebody has been tying, not through rotary, but tying, their experience, and they want to go into a true rotary vise. It takes a little bit of training and changing the way your brain works when it comes to that, because they're no use to the 360 rotation. So it's a matter of getting used to that technique. But I always start people with the traveler. To me, it holds the hook securely. It offers you the true rotary features. You can grow with the sport, because from a traveler, you can add a speeding attachment, you can add a Clouser arm, you can add a game changer jaw, a parachute attachment. There is so many accessories that we design for the traveler and for the other vices that make this vice so versatile, that allows you to grow with the sport, with that experience. And it's gonna last you a lifetime. So it's an investment that you make today. People made that investment in 1988, and they still have it today. So it's an investment is, and even if you resell it later on, that retains the pricing. So
Yeah, you're never going to lose any money on the vise. Yeah.
yeah, the traveler is by far the device that we always try to get people to go to, and then you see their name through the years when you're registering the warranty car. You see their name again on the database for another traveler or for another vice.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I love it.
So they do buy more. So even though they don't lose they still have their other vice. Their next vice is going to be another Renzetti travel.
Yeah, they do. I mean, we are compiling, we didn't have warranty cards back in the days when Andy started, but we are finalizing that database. We start serializing our vices. So when we did that, I think it was 2000 or 2001, we started that database, but from the warranty cards that came into the late 80s and early 90s, they were never put on that database. So now we're putting that on the database. And they say, what are you going to do with that? I say, I don't care. I just think it's important to have it, even though we do have a limited lifetime warranty. I just think that it's important to keep that information. So you see the same name many times. I say, how many vices can somebody have?
Right. They love it. Well, and that's probably, and I was thinking about, learning how to use a rotary vise for somebody who's new. You could definitely take a fly tying class. Probably I'm guessing you could maybe look at your ambassadors list and maybe check in with some of those people who have YouTube channels or videos to find out how to use it. Would that be a recommendation to learn how to use a rotary?
Yes, the Renzetti has a YouTube channel that explain that concept
Oh,
very
okay.
well. It's a video in there. But our ambassadors, and then there are some fly shop that are doing a terrific job educating the angler, through YouTube channel, their own website. So the information is out there, and regardless if it is a Renzetti or another manufacturer that offer that true rotary feature, the concept is the same. You just have to apply it to your vise. But on the Renzetti YouTube channel, there is a good explanation of the true rotary concept and the feature of devices, and there is more that is ready to come out pretty soon too on that is on the work.
Oh, gotcha. So we can subscribe to your channel. There'll be some new videos coming out this year.
Yes, but it has been a working process for a
Yeah,
long time.
I hear you. Yeah, YouTube is not easy.
No.
Yeah.
No, so and besides, we get consumed with the daily operation of, is, I say, my goodness, how, it's sometimes it becomes a challenge trying to get all the things that we want to get done and try to get them done in a timely basis. But it is life.
Yeah, it is. Do you look at this just looking ahead? I'm not sure how old you are, but do you and Andy look at this thinking like, well, okay, how long are we looking at, retirement, selling this thing? Do you even think about that right now, or do you just kind of love it so much you don't even think about it?
I love it every day. Andy semi-retired.
Oh, he is. Oh, nice.
Well, but he comes to the office every day, see where he can help. He trains. This country has a shortage of technical people, machinists. So he have invested a lot of time training our staff, the machinist. So he comes every day. We put them through school, but we also train them.
So is he training them? Have they gone to like machinist school, or is he training them from like ground up?
Yes, yeah. So they go through a 4-year schooling that we sponsor locally, and then our manufacturing specialize on what they call Swiss turning, which is a very tight tolerance manufacturing, because devices, all the pieces that we make, they're very small, they're very tight tolerance. So the equipment that we use is the equipment that they make citizen watches, very precise. It's called Swiss turning. So Andy have specialized in that for many years, and nowadays he trained our staff either on that part of the equipment or on the manual equipment, depending of what operations we are doing. So he does come every day, 3-4 hours, sometimes less, depending of what is needed. So we have our meetings. He spend time with the guys in the shop. And so when we talk about retirement, yeah, there are times that I say, my gosh, I would love to be able to, not have this responsibility every day. But it's hard to sell your name.
Yeah.
This has been our livelihood. It's more than our livelihood.
That's right. It's your name. That's the thing about it, right? It's your name.
It's your name, and then to make sure that the quality, it have crossed our mind many times. We just, I don't know, we did so far it's manageable. We have a great team. Our son works with us in the manufacturing aspect of it. He's a young guy. He's only 29. He's young, so to put a responsibility like that is huge, and I want him to do what he loves. So it has crossed our mind, but so far we're here.
Yeah, you're still going strong.
Yeah, and we have a great staff that knows our philosophy and has
Yeah.
our vision, and
Love that.
so it's manageable. So I don't know what tomorrow will bring. We hope that we're blessed with continue to be blessed with good health
Yep.
and good personnel, and continue to do what we love.
Exactly. I think that's the take home message. You know what I mean? I think that for you and for anybody, why get out of it if you love it? It's one of those
I
things where,
love it.
and I go back to Benjamin Franklin again, because I'm on that. But I mean, he was like 87. I can't remember, he died somewhere in there, but he was doing, he was in with Washington and everybody till the very end. Like, right on his deathbed, even he was sitting there still working.
I'm glad that you mentioned him, because when Andy was going to trade school in Pennsylvania, he went to Stephen Thaddeus Technical School in Lancaster. That's where he went for a machinist. And he always said he was inspired by a phrase by Benjamin Franklin. It was written right above his professor's desk on his office. He had a thing that says, "There is a better way, find it."
Mm.
And Andy, he always said, that is, as a young man, that's really what stuck with me. Find it. So
Yeah.
Andy was a young man with a learning disability that had a struggle through high school.
What was that, like dyslexia or something like that?
Dyslexia. Mhm.
Yeah.
And he spent most of his time back then, they used to be like wood shop or mechanical, they were used to be those trade within the high school, and that's where he spent most of his time because he felt the most productive. And back then you didn't know that it was a learning disability either.
No.
So his mother was a visionary, put him through a lot of tutoring, and then eventually she put him through this school that was for underprivileged kids, because
Oh,
they were
wow.
very, very, very poor, to put it bluntly. And that changed his life. That school changed and he tells you today, that school gave me a purpose, gave me the confidence, gave me the desire. Failure was not an option.
Wow.
That's what he said. I never look at what anybody did. I grew this company organically. I did what I love. I concentrated on just doing this. I didn't care if it took me 10 hours or if it took me 15 hours. Failure was not an option.
Love that.
And that's what kept him going.
That's a good story.
Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of. That's why I have so much passion for this company, because I have seen and heard his struggles through the years. And for somebody with a learning disability and with no money to be able to believe in himself so much and create something so beautiful that have stand 50 years plus is just remarkable. It's truly to me, it's an inspiring story, honest. Truly is.
It is. It is a great story, because it's a story that I think anybody listening, or thinking about your kids. I mean, stuff's going to happen, right? Everybody has challenges, and the story that you're telling here is like somebody that just wanted it so badly that he just kept going, And I think that's you got the American story, right? That there's opportunity for all of us as long as you put the hard work in.
Exactly, and that's he definitely have invested, put the time into, and I always get inspired. Like, failure was not an option. I like, that is so powerful, To me, that is extremely powerful. So
I love that. Failure is no option. One of my quotes, and I guess it's the same idea, but I think I say it like, or I guess whoever said it, but I say those that fail most win. You know what I mean? Like, the
yes,
fact that, there are going to be struggles, and you're not going to like be perfect every time, but you just stay with it. It sounds like maybe that's what he did.
stay with it and consistent and committed to, commitment. That's one thing that, to me, looking at ambassadors, I look at commitment. What is your commitment to this industry?
Right. There's a good one for you, Lily. So if somebody's listening now and they really want to be a Renzetti ambassador, even knowing that there's a limited amount that, but what would you tell that person that maybe they really in the long term want to be? What would be the things you're looking for in that person? It's commitment is a big one.
Commitment, your involvement. What charity work do you do? What is your philosophy about sharing your knowledge and passing that on to the next generation. Because if you look at the lefties and Bobby Popovics and all these people, they share their knowledge. They continue to grow this industry. And regardless if we're here tomorrow, if we are still with Renzetti or whatever happened with us, the industry have to continue. And I think that if we are willing to share our passion, our love, and show the newcomer that this is more than a post on your social media. Fly fishing or this industry, we as people that are in the industry have a responsibility. I honestly believe have a responsibility to share the knowledge and continue to grow the industry. And it doesn't mean that you have to tie on a Renzetti vise. I don't care what vise you tie on. I think that we have to be able to promote the industry as an industry. The buying decision of what equipment that person is gonna get is secondary. They're smart enough, they will do your homework. But what do I wanna tell an ambassador? Be genuine about it, be willing to invest your time and effort in the industry and share your knowledge. And also, get involved with nonprofit. That's a huge thing for us. Andy and I are everybody here is very philanthropic. We volunteer our talent, we give money, because I do believe that is part of who we are. We're not just sharing a product, we're sharing our knowledge, we're giving our expertise, we're giving our treasures time. The amount of time that we devote in our community just on volunteering work is so rewarding. And that's one thing that I ask every ambassador, every prospective ambassador: where do you give back? And today there are so many venues that you can do that. There are so many nonprofits that can utilize the knowledge and the skill that a fly tyer or an angler has. So that's where I go back that we check on the character of the individual. That's part of the character of the individual.
Yeah. And as we get out here, maybe do you want to shed light on one nonprofit that you want to highlight here as we head out of here?
I have my love with Casting for Recovery because I brought that organization to Florida.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They go by chapters. So I was instrumental in bringing it to Florida. But the organization that we have been, besides the local ones like the Rotary Club and the Pilot Club that we do in town, the one that we have been putting a lot of time and effort is Tunnels to Tower. That is Andy's favorite organization.
Oh, which one is that again?
Tunnels to Tower.
Oh, Tunnels to Tower.
Yeah, that's the organization that provides homes and mortgage free for veterans and first responders.
Oh, wow.
And 94% of their revenue or their donation goes straight to the cause. And that's one that's the one that we raised money for last year. We were able to give $10,000. This year, I think it's gonna be about the same. We give for every vise we sell, we give money to them.
Wow.
So that's what Andy wanted to do for the 50-year anniversary. And this year he said, I want to continue on with that. He did a lot of research into that organization. And that's one of the one that we donate the most.
Love that.
Casting for Recovery would always be special to me because I put a lot of time into bringing it to Florida. I wish that it was in a different place today because we're not being too active, but that program changes life. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is. No, this is great. I think this is the perfect ending because Tunnels to Towers Foundation is not one that I had heard about. And so we'll put a link in the show notes to that and get some people connected. That looks like an amazing group. And awesome, Lily. Well, thanks for all your time today. We'll send everybody out to renzetti.com if they have questions for you. And I appreciate all of the time and sharing the light on the history of Renzetti and hope to keep in touch with you moving forward.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you today.
There it is. you can head over to wetflyswing.com/486. You can do that right now, 486. Check out the Traveler if you're not familiar with some of the new vices, some of the models and different colorations they have going. Check it out right now, and all the show notes are there. Check in with us on Instagram at wetflyswing right now. Chris is over there helping out and doing some great stuff. If you want to connect with us, with me, and find out what we have going, check it out right now. Listener shout out. Let's do it before we get out of here. Dylan Lipinski. I've got a super quick one from Dylan. Dylan checked in and said, just started the podcast today. Great stuff. There we go. Dylan checked in with us and let us know he's checking out the podcast. The great thing about the podcast is there's plenty of new people out there right now who have no idea about this podcast. And also there's people out there that have no idea about podcasting in general. So if you know somebody that might love to find out, get some tips on fly fishing, we would love if you had a chance to share it with them. Send them a link anytime and share out the love. That's about it for now. We're looking ahead into the future. What do we have going here? I guess one random thing I've been thinking about. We just got done doing a run, a little 5K with the kids, and I wasn't quite in shape enough. But it was pretty cool because my daughter basically was just knocking it out of the park, and I couldn't even keep up with her. Always a cool thing. So I'm going to be doing some training, but it also got me to think about the future and maybe getting into some of this trail run, more of the trail running thing. And I know we've had at least one episode here in the past where we talked about the trail run, fly fishing events, that I think there's a couple of them going on. So I'm going to check in on that. If you're interested in trail running or just running in general, let me know. I would love to hear if there's interest. If we were to put together one of these events, potentially, would that be something of interest somewhere around the country? I want to get in shape, so I would love to hear from you on that. All right, before we get out of here, I'm going to take a quick peek, just one quick peek where we are heading next. Where are we heading next? Just looking out at the next week. And it looks like we have next week, we've got the Littoral Zone. We got some big episodes. Littoral Zone is always good with Phil, and we got a special episode on Wednesday, a very special famous writer coming in. So stay tuned for that. And I'm going to leave it there right now. And I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to let you get to your thing, whether that's exercising, walking the dog, cooking dinner, cooking breakfast, whatever you're doing right now. I'm going to let you get back to it. And I'm looking forward to catching up with you soon. Please check in with me anytime, and I hope you are having a great afternoon, great evening, or great morning, wherever in the world you are, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you for stopping in today and checking out the show.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.